All right, so this is day 6, the greatest common factor notes. So if you take a look at an equation here, you have 15x to the third plus 20x squared minus 25x. You're going to look at every single term and you're going to find out kind of what do they all share? What do they have in common? So if you look at 15x to the third, I can break that down into two prime numbers, 5 times 3, which is 15. And I have 3 x's. Well, 20 can be broken down to 5 times 4 and 2 x's, and 25 can be broken down to 5 times 5 times 1x. Well, let's circle everything they have in common. Well, they each have at least one 5 in common. This guy has a 3, but no one else has a 3. This guy has a 4, but no one else has a 4. So as far as the numbers go, they only have a 5 in common. This has an x, this has an x, and this has an x. So I can put an x down because they all share an x. This one has an x, this one has an x, but I've already taken this x, so he has no other x's to give me. So the only thing they have in common is a 5x squared, 5x. So I'm going to put that out front, and I'm going to put parentheses. Well, after I take the 5x out, so here, if you ignore that 5x, what's left? Well, I have a 3 and 2 x's. So I have a 3x squared left there, plus, I'm going to bring down the sign. Well, I've taken out this 5 and I've taken out that x, so I have left a 4x. I'm going to bring down the negative sign. And now I only have left a 5 because I've taken out that 5 and that x. So I only have a 5 left. Now you can always check your work. You can kind of multiply this back out and see if you get back to this answer. So let's try that. If I multiply those two together, I get a 15x to the third. If I multiply those two together, I get a 20x squared. And if I multiply those two together, I'm going to get a minus 25x. So you can see that these are the same. This one just is more factored. It has the 5x factored out. So go ahead and put the video on pause and see if you can do these three yourself. All right, let's see if you did them right. So if I take a look at just the numbers first, the 2 and the 6, well, it looks like they share a 2, so I can take a 2 out. Then I'm going to look at the variables. This guy has 2 n's, but this guy has no n's at all, so I can't take out an n. So 2 is the only thing I can factor out. So if I take 2n squared and divide out a 2, I'm only left with n squared. I'm going to bring down the sign. If I take a 6 and divide it by 2, I'm left with a 3. So then this is factored. Let's try this next one. If I look at the numbers, this is a 2 and this is a 1. So as far as the numbers go, they don't share anything. Let's look at the variables. This has 2 n's and this term only has 1 n. So I can factor 1 n out because they share an n. So if I take 2n squared and divide it by n, I'll have 2n left. Bring down the sign. If I take n and divide it by n, I'll have a 1 left. You always have to have something there, even if it's just a 1. Otherwise, you wouldn't have anything here for that placeholder. Let's take a look at the last one here. Let's first take a look at the numbers. I have a 3 and a 12. Well, if I think about their factors, 12 would be 3 times 4, so I know they share a 3. This has 3 n's, and this has 2 n's, so they share at least 2 n's. So I can take out an n squared. Well, if I take 3n to the third and divide it by 3n squared, I have 1n left. I'm going to bring down the sign. If I take 12 and divide it by 3, I'll have 4. And n squared divided by n squared is just 1. So there I have, this is now factored. All right, this one's a little bit more complicated because now it has 3 terms, but you're going to be doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to look at all 3 numbers. I know that 10 can be broken down to 5 times 2, and I have 3 x's. 12 can be broken down to 3 times 2 times 2 and 2 x's. And 18 can be broken down to 3 times 3 times 2 and just 1 x. So let's see what they share. Well, I have a 5 here. No one else has a 5. I have a 2. This one has a 2, and this one has a 2. So I know that they share a 2. This one has 3 x's, 2 x's, and 1 x, so I know they share at least 1 x. Well, if I've taken out a x and a 2, I have left 5x squared. Here I've taken out a 2 and an x, so if I multiply this back together, 3 times 2 is 6, and I still have an x. Bring down the sign. I've taken out a 2 and an x. 3 times 3 is 9. So now that would be factored out. All right, let's try these. I have 12, 6, and 9. Well, if I think about what is kind of divisible by all of those, I know 12 is divisible by 3, 6 is divisible by 3, and 9 is divisible by 3. So I know I can at least take a 3 out. Well, here I have 2 A's, here I have 1 A, here I have no A's. So I can only take out a 3. 12 divided by 3 will give me 4. I haven't been able to take out any A's, so that would be A squared. I'm going to bring down the sign. 6 divided by 3 would be 2. And I couldn't take out any A's, so I'll have an A. And 9 divided by 3 would be 3. So now this, they're the same exact expression, except this one is now more factored. All right, let's take a look at 21 and 7. Well, I know 21 is 7 times 3, so I know they share a 7. This has b squared, this has a b, so they share a b. Now that I've decided what they share, I'm going to put a parentheses and then divide it out. So 21 divided by 7 will give me a 3. B squared divided by b will just be b. I'm going to bring down the sign. Well, 7b divided by 7b is just 1. And so now that is factored. And this one here is all variables. So they obviously can't share a number except 1. But this one has 3 C's, this one has 2 C's, and this has 1 C. So I can at least factor out a C. When I do that, when I take 1 C away or divide out 1 C, I'm going to have C squared there. Here, if I divide out a C, I'm going to have a C there. And C divided by C will just be 1. So that's how you take out a greatest common factor. If you have any questions, please let me know.